Hello there, welcome everyone, and Croeso. Um, Adam's in the hot seat tonight, leading us through a presentation on Nevern. Um, Adam's moved a bit closer to the area, so he's had some time to do a few day trips. I don't know if you've seen his shorts; he's put up some great ones of some of the older monuments and uh, some. Where else have you been, Adam? You've been to. God, you've been
Caerleon.
everywhere, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been all over. I've been to Llanthony Abbey, Caerleon,
Oh, Caerleon, yeah, of course.
Ogmore Castle, St Peter's Church,
Yeah, you've
to
been to a
come,
few dolmens and a few
yeah,
long barrows as well. I'd love to. We'll have a chat about the Neolithic stuff about some point. That would be great. But
indeed.
today, Adam's going to be looking quite closely, particularly at St Helen, and one of our great British mysteries of where is the cross? St Helen is famous for a collection of various Christian. Um, what should we say? What's the word I'm looking for?
Relics.
Relics, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And the cross is the main one we'll be looking at
yeah,
today. But Adam's going to bring in a whole load of other stuff that we like to pick out at this channel as well. So, do you want to take us away?
lovely. Cheers, Pete.
No.
She's understood as someone who embarks on this journey basically to Jerusalem to recover some very important artifacts regarding the Passion of Christ. Iconographical ownership over the Passion, as Constantine is establishing Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. This is a pan-European thing. There's relics like the crown of thorns, the spear of destiny, which I think there's a famous book written in the 70s related to how Hitler wanted the spear of destiny, which is the
Yeah,
spear
they
which
were
was
big
thrust
into it,
into.
weren't they?
Sorry.
They were big into that, weren't they? Nazis.
Yeah, indeed, they're big into their kind of their weird metaphysical stuff. But the spear is the spear that was thrust into to Christ upon the cross. The nails of the crucifixion and the true cross are the ones we're going to focus on today, really, because they're linked with a tradition in Britain. And we'll look at how Helen relates to Britain. And Helen is so the story goes really that the year that I think it's 324, I think the year. Helen basically goes to Jerusalem and demands for these artifacts. And she knocks on the door of the temple and demands that these items are produced.
Because she
Um,
probably would have gone with a whole legion, wouldn't she?
she did, yeah.
Yes,
And
it wasn't just her and her Todd, was it?
it
There
was
was
it
quite a lot
wasn't.
of armed men with her.
That's right. And they basically went on some sort of strike until they were given the items, and they started to drop off apparently, as the story goes.
Mm,
And the demands were being continued to be made, and then lo and behold, the a cross was produced to Helen, which is the main artifact that she wanted to take back. And as far as the British account is concerned, Helen goes back to Britain after that. But it really, what's interesting about Helen's uh, memory is the different traditions remembering her character and how she's presented. And I've got a few extracts here from different documents explaining her character essentially. So I think officially daughter of a barkeeper,
mm, yeah,
right? From Bithynia. We've touched on this a little bit before.
yes. Bithynia's in northwestern Turkey, is that right? Or north central Turkey? It's in Turkey, isn't it?
Yes, in Turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's described often as Helen of Bithynia. When we're talking about someone who is of a low-born class, let's say, let, let's just read the accounts and see what you think
Yeah, sure.
kind of person
Sounds
she
good to
is.
me.
Okay, so this is taken from the life of Constantine, which is the official report of who Helen of her character. True Christian zeal motivated Saint Helena. Eusebius describes her as follows: especially abundant were the gifts she bestowed upon the naked and unprotected poor. To some she gave money, to others she gave ample supply of clothing. She liberated some from imprisonment or from the bitter servitude of the mines. Others she delivered from unjust oppression, and others, again, she restored from exile. While, however, her character derived lustre from such deeds, she was far from neglecting personal piety towards God. She might be seen continually frequenting his church, while at the same time she adorned the houses of prayer with splendid offerings, not overlooking the churches of the smallest cities. In short, this admirable woman was to be seen in simple and modest attire, mingling with the crowd of worshippers and testifying her devotion to God by a uniform course of pious conduct. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, we have to look at these sources always with a critical eye, and wonder if there's any propaganda in there, etc. But this is what we've got to go on, okay?
Yeah.
As a description of a character. And I'll, let you think what you want about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that obviously they're gonna say she was very nice and very generous and stuff because it's in the life of Constantine. They're going to be pretty nice about his mother, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's quite detailed, I would say. So maybe there's a bit more to it than just that. Uh, Especially things about not overlooking the churches of smaller cities and things like that. It just seems like unnecessary detail, unless maybe whatever. But
Yeah,
you
indeed.
can really, if you're trying to work through propaganda or something like that, I mean, you would either have to get rid of all of it or take all of it as true. And so we've got to really just take it, as you say, take it for what it is. It's what we've got. So
yeah.
So we have to work with it, but just be, as you say, be careful with it.
Indeed. And there's if you set it in contrast to the smear campaign that was done against her by Zosimus, who we've mentioned before, he's describing her, he's smearing her name basically and calling her things which you wouldn't expect someone whose life had been described like that, and as I've just read, would be.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so
Notice that this doesn't say anything about where she's from.
no, it doesn't say anything where she's from. No.
No. And I believe, as we've mentioned before, you said that Zosimus was a pagan.
Yeah, indeed.
A Greek. Greece was he from? I think. Yeah.
He
So
was a Greek.
yeah. He was a Greek pagan. So he wasn't very happy about the empire converting to Christianity, was he?
No, and he had his motivations to undo that.
Yeah. And to criticize anyone
Yeah,
involved. Yeah.
indeed, and that seems to be the narrative which officially the church has gone with. But we have an alternative narrative in Britain, which was recorded by the British Church essentially, and we're going to go into a little bit about that and a little bit about how those narratives are remembered in myth and also otherwise in history as well. So I'm just going to read this piece from Percy Enderby's Cambrian Triumphants. So some there be, whether to detract so great a glory from this nation to give it to another, or of ignorance in history, do say that one Theodora was the first lawful wife of Constantine's. So this ties into the smear campaign again.
Yeah.
So essentially that Helen was a concubine. Okay. So
yeah, or a common law wife or something like
that.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But that Constantinus was already
lawfully betrothed,
lawfully but married before.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Taking away her legitimacy,
and also Constantine's legitimacy.
Indeed, yeah, exactly,
absolutely, yeah.
The blessed Helena, mother of that happy emperor, the great Constantine, was not only a stranger to this nation, but of mean estate, which is unworthy to be written, not the wife, but concubine of Constantine, with name and attribute concubina, This most noble empress, St. Helena, is styled by not only among divers foreign writers, but of this nation also, as Marinus Scotus and Florentines Vigor Anensis.
Well
No,
done.
as they now published, many of which do not dishonour of that most holy lady and this country abstain from the same phrase of speech. This error began being overthrown by the other, that she was a stranger and basely born, for accepting those who wander in that tract all agree that she is the sole daughter and heir of the noble British King Cole. Okay, so Percy Enderby's talking about the debate that's existing there. He was writing in the 17th century. He's writing a history for James II. We've got these genealogies in Britain which link Helen to the Cole line, the British King Cole line, which there's two King Coles of note. She's the daughter of the second King Cole, who was king of in Colchester.
It's just worth mentioning for anyone confused that Constantine's father's name is Constantinus, I believe.
Yeah.
You get this with any point in history when there is an emperor or king with the name Constantine, their son or father. I think Constantine's sons as well were called Constantius and also Constantine II. So it gets really confusing sometimes with depending on how it's been spelt as well. Because different spelling choices are made, so it can get a bit confusing. But yeah, so we are talking about Constantine's father and who he married, and which is what I assume the next paragraph is going into as well, a bit more detail.
Yeah,
Constantius,
indeed. Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
So Nicephorus and some later after him would have her born in Bithynia at Drepanum. So Nicephorus, I hadn't come across that one before. That I'm not sure if it's separate to the Zosimus account. But anyway, we've got someone else placing a Helen in Bithynia.
Sounds quite Greek again, the name.
It is, yeah, it does. So it could be even the same person, couldn't it? We'll have a look. But the daughter of an innkeeper there, with whom Constantius, passing that way to the Persians, fell in love, but this is made impossible by that is said before of the Bienno of both Constantius and Helena in Britain, so remote from any part of Bithynia at the time, and neither of them coming to or near Drepanum or any part of Bithynia after this time, or at all after this time. But when she was a holy widow many years after Constantius' death, passed by Greece in her pilgrimage to Jerusalem, as is evident in all kind of antiquaries, and will most manifestly appear in its due place. So I guess Enderby is saying here that if you look at history which is written, long enough ago, you will find that Helen is British rather than Greek.
Yeah, I think the best argument I've heard in favor of the Bithynia is that Constantius did a campaign in Bithynia once.
Yeah, okay.
And that's it. But that's it. The reference to that is basically that he was there. There's no reference that he found a wife or that he got married or that she was from there. It's just that he campaigned there at some point of his life.
Indeed, which on its own is enough material to fashion a smear campaign if you wanted to, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I've just taken this from Arthurius Rex Discovered just to give an idea of when we talk about the Cole line, who exactly are they coming from? Averagus that's the father of King Cole. So Averagus and Ganesa, which is the imperial marriage, essentially. Ganesa is the daughter of Emperor Claudius. So the Cole line is that imperial British and Imperial line, the first King Cole. But if we look over here, I've gone over to Fab Pedigree here, and we've got here, Helen in British genealogies, the mother of Constantine, but also the daughter of King Cole II.
Yes, so that we were looking at coil 1, weren't we?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, and now and this is shown about 100 years later, and 150 years later, 100 years later, we got coil 2.
Coil 2. Yeah. So that wasn't the same coil that I just showed.
Yeah.
But why the reason I added that in there is to show the beginning of the coal line.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. All right. So we've got a tradition in Wales of Helen bringing the cross to Nevern, a place near Cardigan in West Wales. And I'm going to show you some small details which essentially pin down Helen in this area. And one of the points of reference we can start off with is the river which runs through Nevern, which is called Avon Bannon. Bannon has been given as a translation as it's been given as Empress. And I went to the 1688 dictionary to try and confirm this, and I found Queen. So I'm sure, not sure whether these other scholars have gotten their translations from, but I think Queen is close enough, to understand what they're talking about. Another tradition is the Mabinogion, where Peredur, on his adventures, actually talks about his travels over to the house of Helen of Constantinople in a town which is 1 mile outside of Nevern. So that's recorded in the collection of Welsh myth as well. Okay. We've also got Sarn Helen, which is a huge road which goes south to north of Wales. It's not exactly near Nevern, but there's a debate as to which Helen this road is attributed to. There's 2 Helens of note in Welsh history, who are both saints. One being St. Helen of the Cross, the other being Helen, the wife of Magnus Maximus.
And a certain lady, don't forget the third one, the certain lady of Troy.
Oh, Helen of Troy, we can't forget her, can we?
Can't forget her. Why is there a tradition in British history of women called of Helen? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with Trojan origins, I'm sure.
No, yeah, exactly that. So the idea is that St. Helen of the Cross parades this cross up and down the Sarn Helen, north to south, before going over to Nevern to place it in the cave which will be built up and essentially become the pilgrimage site that it would become. And I went over to Nevern, which is nearby to where the cross is. The cross is in Nevern, but this is the church nearby. Okay, and I'll show you the footage. We'll just play the footage, and you take it in. We'll have the discussion afterwards.
Right. Oh, that's lovely and peaceful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, that's a big tree.
Yeah. One of the most impressive yew grows I've seen in the church.
Hmm.
This is the bleeding yew, and you'll see why in a moment.
Oh, yes, of course. Beautiful churchyard.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh, ho, ho. God, that's well preserved.
Okay,
Good. Great.
so that was just a quick run through the churchyard. About the yew tree, about the bleeding yew. I think that's
Yeah.
a pretty neat little part of the story. So there's a couple of traditions as local folk myth goes about why it's bleeding. The first one I heard through Ross was that it was a monk who was hung, an innocent monk who was hung on there. He was falsely accused of something, and the myth goes that the yew will bleed in memory of the poor monk.
Mm.
And there's another tradition which goes something like the yew will bleed until there is a Welsh prince that sits on the throne up at Nevern Castle. There's always a narrative behind them, which is
Mm.
in the local myth, and I'll come back to it in a moment and talk about why I found that very interesting.
Sure.
But the stone there is, if you look in Arthurian Rex discovered, which Alan said it's the stone of Huldar.
Mm.
So that would date it to the 10th century, which it definitely looks stylistically contemporary with those styles, but it's just a magnificent specimen, isn't it? So Huldar being someone who codified some very famous laws that defined British law, basically,
Yeah.
in his
We had a
time.
talk about them in the Petrie video, didn't we?
Indeed, and
Yeah.
they're basically based on the Mormutian laws that we looked
Yeah.
at in that video. And I found out today that it wasn't a case that he just wanted to revive Welsh law without looking at any other law. Apparently, he went to Rome and studied all the laws in all in all the lands to
Mm.
find the best one for his people. And he said, "Well, I think our own laws actually are best suited to us." And I found that was really cool.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. This stone, this it must have been pretty legible by the time that Wilson and Blackett got to see it, but today it's a lot less legible. Sorry, I haven't got any video for you. It's got some inscriptions on there, but this is what Wilson and Blackett said. This was a stone committed to Vortigern, or Vortimer rather, Vortigern's son, which was written in a runic script and a Latinate script, which is the sort of thing we find a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it looks very worn, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot. It can, yeah, looks a lot older than what we just looked at.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. It's got some ogham on it as well. So
Yeah.
if this is a stone for Mortimer,
Mm.
who inscribed it? Because if we're saying that ogham equals Irish.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. Have a look at that. There's other stones with names similar to Vitaliani around. Um, I think there's two. I think there's two of these in Wales, I think possibly. and then one in the southwest as well. I sort of only just came across it recently because of this mention that I think Vitalanus is given as a father and as a son of Vortigern in a couple of genealogies. Definitely as a father, I think, in one place. So
Mm,
um, yeah, that's really interesting.
cool.
Got to go see that one.
Yeah, definitely. We'll bring some chalk as well.
Yeah, chalk. It's the only way to do it.
Um, so looking at the inside of the church, I've got some videos of some of the stones of the inside of the church, but I just wanted to address this little bit of information here, which you get. Yeah, it's kind of, you look at the very beginning, or
Mm,
6th century, which is when this church was meant to have been built. It's debatable because you've got that yew grove there, which means it was probably a religious site for a long time.
mm,
But officially, a kind of bricks and mortar, or some sort of structure was placed there to represent a church
mm-hmm.
by St Brynach in the 6th century. Um, and yeah, now, if you look here, it says Brynach rise from Ireland. I mean, it's not wrong. He's remembered as coming from Ireland, but
Yeah,
it just strikes you, if you were to follow everything else in mainstream history, you'd understand that you're led to understand that Christianity and most culture actually came from Ireland into Wales.
yeah,
And I'm just going to show you how that's not right. So, with that being said, I'm just going to introduce Brynach, basically looking through the lives of the British saints, basically, and he is in the lives of the British saints.
mm,
Is one of the children of Brecon.
yeah,
I'm just going to introduce Brecon because he's another person who gets this Irish treatment, essentially,
mm,
ignoring the fact that he's actually British.
mm.
Um, you see him depicted here on the right with loads of children on his lap.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
That's because he had a lot of kids.
A lot of kids.
Um, okay, so little is known about this mysterious king. A brief Latin tract provides us with a legend of his birth and upbringing. There was a King Tudrig of Garthmadrin who came to live near Llanfaes in the neighbourhood of Brecon. Tudrig and a daughter, Marshall, to whom he said, "The sharpness of cold weather greatly affects you, and it will be well to procure you a fur garment. I will send you to Ireland with 300 men to Anlach, son of the king Corynach, who will marry you." Then Marshall set forth with her retinue, and on the first night of the hundred of the men died of the cold. On the second night, at Methrum, probably Meadrum, in Carmarthenshire, a second 100 died. The third night was spent in Porthmawr by St David's Head, which must have been a warmer place, for she sailed from there, remaining 100 men to Ireland. When she reached the court of Anlach, he received her dancing with joy, and made her his wife. Marchel gave birth to a son, whom they first called Brachan, later Brecon, and Anlach returned with Queen Marshall and the boy Brecon to Wales. And the boy was sent to be fostered by one Drichan, and in his 7th year, Drichan is said to be Brichan. Bring my lance to me. Drichan later became blind, and while she lay awake, a boar came from the wood and stood by the banks of the river Iskir. And there was a stag behind it in the river, and also a fish beneath the stag, all of which was taken as a portending that Brecon should be happy in abundance and wealth. Likewise, there was a beech tree by the same river, which bees made honey. And Brecon said to his pupil Brecon, "Lo, I give you this tree full of bees and honey, and also of gold and silver, and may the grace of God and his love abide with you always here and hereafter. After that, Anlach gave Brychan as hostage to the king's daughter, and she became pregnant, giving birth to a son whom they called Kinnog. The legend goes on that to give names of the wives and sons and daughters of Brychan, for he is famous as the founder father of one of the 3 saintly tribes of Wales. The large number of sons and daughters attributed to him by various traditional sources should be taken as including also some of his grandchildren. Our illustration of St. Brychan from the stained glass window at St. Neot,
Yeah.
Cornwall, shows him with many children. According to legend, the grave of Anlach, father of Brychan, is before the door of Llanspyddid.
Hmm.
In the churchyard there is a stone called the Cross of Brycheiniog. Llanspyddid is dedicated to St. Cadog, a grandson of Brychan. Llam Hanlach may contain the name of Anlach, and the early sculptured stones there show saints with arms raised in the ancient attitude of prayer. Passing from legend to history, it is possible that Anlach was leader of an invading band of Irish Goidels who settled in Wales, and that by the goodwill of the inhabitants, and that his tribe was replaced by a new name, Brynach derived from that of its new ruler that included much of Brynachshire, and it's very likely that Anlach settled in what was left of that walled city of Baniam, now known as Igir, in Brecon, in the Usk Valley. So that's an introduction to Brychan.
Yeah, it's this is the problem. I suppose what you're getting at and what we'll get to is this problem with false dichotomies, isn't it?
Right, yeah, indeed.
Someone's got to be Irish or British.
Yes.
Quite clear.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Tudrig, Uther Pendragon. I think Bearingill's probably spot on that this is probably to do with the West Wales settlement by the Irish.
Yeah.
And that they did it the old-fashioned British way, that they fight until they're fed up, and then you go, all right, then this bit's ours, that bit's yours. Here's my daughter. You come and live here with her. We're all good now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that seems to certainly play out. I mean, but again, there is this sort of obsession. Like, I mean, we would say is this. I think that in Ireland they've had a much like stronger native push to celebrate, understand, and study their heritage. That like every time that the Welsh or the Cornish try to do it, they just sort of get battered back for it.
Yeah.
And so it means that when it comes to our academia, we've got that strong sort of Irish influence of like, you know, this is Irish, this is Irish, this is our style and stuff like that. Whereas we don't have on the other side, well, hold on a minute, this is the Brythonic history, this is what we understand, because that's constantly squashed down and not understood as so yeah, just to finish that point, the academia is it, we don't sort of we need to stop these false oppositions. I always bang on about the opposition between, you know, uh, in the early medieval period of Roman versus Celtic, or what's the other one? Christian versus pagan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think in these periods that line gets very blurred. And I think West Wales is one of the places that happens. And I think Anglesey is another place that happens, where there's definitely Irish settlement. But I think the important thing to remember is that at the end of that Roman period, you see all those doom maps, you know, Saxons coming in this way, Irish coming in this way. You go 100 years later, you've still got the Saxons down the east coast of Britain, but there's not really a lot of sign of those Irish settlements at all. In fact, they've gone from Wales, and and that's recorded. Uh, Canada Ledig and his sons,
Yeah,
um, responsible for a lot of that. I think this story of is Tudrig, um, doing the same thing in Southwest Wales. Um, but yeah, that's the important thing to remember is then afterwards, there's clearly some sort of Brythonic victory at some point because these areas, although we can say there's Irish influence maybe with the Ogomoan script and stuff like that, they stay for all intents and purposes culturally and politically British.
indeed. Yeah,
It's not Scotland. Um, so
no, exactly.
yeah, so we get both. There's always this like, oh, we've got to go one way or the other, and generally things, and again, this is sort of like a strange thing, is that I think um, the Irish might think that we would actually um, do the opposite in our academia and culture, but actually, there's this real great love affair with putting things in that are Irish, and it seems really odd because it doesn't really get to the crux of the matter.
No.
It's obscuring as if to say, as if you were to say there was no Irish influence whatsoever. You know, we've got to really understand that there is a joining, and it's written in the history.
Yeah, we remember it in the traditions which are handed down.
Yeah,
Which
absolutely.
seem far more nuanced than modern academia, modern history,
Yeah,
which seem to be affected by modern borders and modern politics.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
even give the names of like Anlach. Anlach is a Welsh name, um, and it's he's been given a Welsh name in Welsh. Do you know what I mean? Although he is an Irish king and will have an Irish name.
yes,
No, I don't think Anlach is like, I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I looked at this, but I'm pretty sure Anlach is not the name that king has in Ireland. So it shows that and we get this with some of the saints. Like a lot of people, you have the Irish name that they have and the Irish list of their deeds and things like that and what they did when they were in Ireland, and then you'll find the Welsh name, the Welsh list of their deeds, or the Cornish name and the Cornish list of their deeds. Depending on who you're talking about. And um, this is something we wanted to get into, wasn't it? About the movement across the Irish Sea, but amongst saints and things like that, and about how it's so much more of a complicated picture than just they went that way or they came this way. Um, so
yeah,
much going on. It's the same, we've gone on about this with Brittany as well before, haven't we?
yeah,
It's
indeed.
not just people fleeing the Saxons. There's so much more going on. Um,
Yeah, like in the transmission of the name Venadotti,
mm,
which is in Brittany and it's in North Wales.
yeah,
So not immediately like the next place along, like Devon or Cornwall. It's like
yeah,
all the way around on the other side of the British world.
yeah,
You
right,
know?
yeah, absolutely.
And also is a could be an allusion to Etruscan link as well, actually, and a link to Venus maybe as well.
Oh
Veneto,
yeah, of course, yeah, very cool.
uh,
Mm,
you could morph it into Phoenician easily.
yeah.
It's a fascinating link, um, and also, yeah, it's yeah, um, right. So, with that being said, I'm gonna just read a little bit from the life of Sim Brynach,
Brynach, yeah,
because he's the one who is incepted this church in Nevan. So I just wanted to basically give a little story to the name behind
sure.
the church dedication. So Brynach Wyvil, or the Irishman, was married to Corth or Kimorth, one of the daughters of Brychan. He was a priest and a spiritual instructor to the king and his family. Not only was he a priest, but also abbot. a Latin life for him of the 12th century seems to have been based on Welsh ballads for a while he was in Armorica. And when he desired to come to Wales, he put a stone on the water and mounted it, and was wafted over to Milford Haven. There, the daughter of the prince became enamoured with him, but as he resisted her advances, she sent men to murder him, and one stabbed him with a lance. Thereupon a swarm of winged ants fell upon the man, and so stung him that he suffered greatly and died. The saint then bathed his wound in a spring ever called Finon Goch, or the Red Well. Eventually, he went over to River Caman in Pembrokeshire, where an angel had informed him that the site for a monastery would be pointed out to him by a wild white boar and her litter, which has got striking comparisons with like the Vandal King. Do you remember? And anyway, I'm talking about that. Here he lit a fire, and this was regarded as the assertion of a right to this place. The lord of the district, seeing the smoke, came hastily to know who dared to light a fire, but he was a good man, and he gave land to St. Brynach and committed his sons to him for their education. The saint now built a church at a foot of Carn Ingley, above Nevan. There is a story that St. David visited Brynach whilst on his way to Brevy, and that Brynach obtained a gift of a stone cross from him. The church at Nevan has a very fine ornamented Celtic cross, but of a later date than St. Brynach. So I think they're talking about the cross of Haldar there. What do you think?
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of the lives try and work in any known antiquaries to try and antique things in order to try and work something in. You know, if there's something strange nearby, they'll try and work it into the life. Happens quite a lot.
Indeed. But we've got a kind of subtle allusion to the tradition of a cross being associated with Brynach in that place. So just at the end, right at the end of that. I know it's very subtle, but I hope you can see what I mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right, so this is the I'll just go ahead and play it, why not?
Yeah, do it, yeah.
Going back to what I was saying about the yew, the bleeding yew. Well, it's quite fun to see that they put a throne there when I just heard about that folk tale about sitting there, and you know, that was pretty cool to see. I think that's there for a reason.
Nice bit of wood carving.
Yeah. Apologies for the wobbly camera ride.
Really?
So you on top of the Mot?
This is the just walking up to it now.
Yeah. So we're properly in the castle now.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole area just looks so nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just want to bring your attention to this sort of work here with the walls.
Yeah.
That is everywhere in Nevan, like everywhere. And I just want to ask people to bear that in mind for what's coming up.
So she was to do it's like the geology splits into these nice thin stones,
Yeah.
which are good for building walls out of.
Good for building walls out of, which, yeah, and there's like quarries for it literally just round the corner from this moat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's an interesting area because it's quite until you get up to, the Preselis, Carningli and that, which
Yeah.
is obviously really high up. It's sort of a generally, it's not, you don't have regular big hill sort of mountains like you do in South Wales or something like that for putting your hill forts on, do you? And Nevern is sort of a high point in the area. So it would be ideal place for a hill fort. That whole sort of
Yeah.
that raised section, as you say, which is like above. But I don't know. Love to have a walk around.
Fair enough.
That's the way
Cool.
to do it.
That's the way to do it.
Thanks, Tricia. So it says Loyal is widely credited with structural and strategic developments at Nevan Castle from the mid to late 12th century. Is there anything about the founding of the original Mot section?
That's the beginning of the timeline.
So, so is this not a Norman Mot then? Is this a Welsh Mot?
I think that's what they're getting at. Yeah.
That's
Or
cool, isn't it? That's
uh,
interesting.
yeah. Like a Cambro. They call it Cambro Norman.
Cambro Norman, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah, because he would have had Norman family by then, I assume.
Yeah.
Any
I would
Welsh
thought.
ruler would have had at least some,
Yeah.
and the Normans would, and also, when they come face to face with the Normans, and the Normans had an advantage um, in military technology, basically,
Yeah.
to
Indeed.
boil
Yeah.
it down, and so the Research Grufford and the like would have had to have stepped on it to develop to match the Normans, uh, in the field, so to speak. But that's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, as you say, they call it Cambro Norman, but it's quite interesting to think of it as a native Mot rather than a
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, cool. That was the only thing I wanted to have a look at.
Awesome. Right. So, I've just wanted to put this painting here first of all, um, which is a 17th century painting of Cygnus with St. Helen holding the cross.
Hmm.
So the constellation of Cygnus and St. Helen holding the cross, which is, you'll see in a moment why that's
Because
important.
the constellation is also called the Northern Cross.
And the reason that's important is because the megalithic monuments
Mm.
in this area map out the constellation, that exact constellation,
Hmm.
which has it throws up all sorts of questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which I'm not gonna pretend that I can answer at all. But
Well, I mean, simply put, we've got. I mean, Wilson Blackett said there was another star map beyond the one that they looked at that we're looking at with Steve Willett
yeah,
in further west in West Wales, and this was part of it.
yeah,
Unfortunately, I don't know if in their published works they developed this Zodiac as far as they did with the other one.
yeah,
It's interesting as well because these are megalithic, which means is it dates it again to earlier than Steve's one, and we're with Hugh Evans,
yeah,
in Gwynedd and the Gwynedd Zodiac, possibly the oldest in the world by the looks of it. Um,
yes,
and that's made up of, if you're going to date it, I mean, there's obviously the oldest parts of it are definitely we can date to the Neolithic. So this West Wales one could be as old. I've seen people like Robin Heath do amazing things with Pentre showing alignments. Pentre Carningli create. In fact, it might even be with Navan Cross. I'm not sure. Create a equilateral triangle.
brilliant.
Yeah,
It's just amazing.
it is nuts. I mean, but he says people are like, oh, why would you do this? And he's like, that triangle, that's for surveying. This is all about surveying. And if we think about what we did with Martin as well, Martin Green, up with Thornborough Henges and the Devil's Arrows, we were sort of talking about the whole point of this is surveying the land for some reason. It's sort of like
Yeah,
knowing
exactly. Yeah,
exactly where you are, basically map making and surveying and understanding. And you need to do that before you think about building a Zodiac.
yeah,
You can start be like, all right, we'll plonk one star there and one star there. You need to know exactly where everything is in the landscape first,
yeah,
and then you can decide where you want to start plonking things. So,
yeah, indeed.
I mean,
It's
to think there were like detailed maps of Britain 5,000 years ago, and it wasn't next done until like the 16, 1700s.
yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah,
It's
incredible,
crazy.
incredible.
But yeah, I mean, it would be great if we could explore this West Wales Zodiac a bit further at
Would
some
be.
point.
It would be
But
great. Yeah.
but it also, I think another thing that you might be getting at is that it means that the Britons, that Helen had some awareness of the Zodiac
That's
and
it.
her contemporaries in Britain.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
information of it had traveled at least until the fourth century AD.
Well, yeah, indeed, and you know, I'd argue, if you go and read Hugh Evans' new book, The Origin of Time, that culture, in some form, lasted up until the late medieval times, at least. With
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not
Uh,
gonna,
and certainly the information was still sequestered away by other people and
yeah,
other groups, and it's
yeah,
probably very important to some people still today.
still today, yeah, exactly. But I mean, to have the knowledge there that there's a mapped out cross, and in the middle of it there is a place for you to place the cross, is
Mm,
just, to me, it is just one of the most exciting things about the whole Wilson and Blackett
yeah.
epos. It's just, it's incredible. We'll go through the sites which make this grid up essentially. Um, but first of all, I just randomly got a picture of the
Mm.
Cygnus, or the North Cross constellation, just so you can compare it there, and you know just have a look at it. But we visited Pentrefan as well, just to give you a little walk around of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Is that like a few feet or?
To the channel.
Yeah. Bit jumpy as yeah. I've been wanting to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Like the back of that. Those two stones on the left and right are like they're matching. It's like, how did they pick two stones? So this is something Robin Heath argues, because he shows, like, you got a view right there. Can you see right through to Carningley?
Yes. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
he makes a point about how you can make an alignment from one place and get that view of Carningley. And he's like with a lot of these dolmens, the idea is they were all meant to be covered in earth at some point. And he
Yeah.
says,
That's
well,
right.
you don't get those alignments, and those alignments are not by accident. And my argument as well for Pentrefan in particular, more so than a lot of other dolmens, is that those stones have been picked for how they look. They are not just like, right, we got one whopping, but three of those stones are virtually identical in shape and
Yeah.
size. Um, the capstone looks like it's been picked as a mirror of the ones that are holding it up, just like a bigger version of them.
Yeah.
But they are just all so similar. It's like the dolmen that's been designed by an aesthete. It is so remarkable, I think.
So is it a burial chamber?
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because
later.
yeah, indeed. Because yeah, might have had different purposes, indeed. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's quite the specimen, because it is so impressive to look at. It's not
Yeah.
a bit
I
less.
I just don't think you cover up. I don't think you go to the effort of picking stones that look like that and then covering them up.
Yeah.
I just don't think it would happen.
It's a good point. It's a good point. So this is the Carrick-Coyton stone, which is the just to go back.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And a Chesley Fant stone
Hmm.
and the Cumglain stone as well.
Well, yeah, it's a cup and ring one, isn't it? That one.
Like a ring one, yeah, which could have its own star map on it for all we know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think that one's hard to find. I think it's in a farmer's field, that one. I think
yeah,
the other
there's not
ones are a
many
bit more
pictures of it.
accessible.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
fascinating, fascinating.
But I mean, it's just interesting about can we go back to that previous dolmen? The one before it, sorry. I mean, I'm not saying that's ugly, but different choices. It's not, it's stunning. But
Yeah,
there's something different about Pentrefan, and it's like aesthetic choices have been made
yeah,
in a way, and maybe they've been made here and different ones have been made for other reasons. Maybe there's certain alignments that you get from the angles, or um goodness knows what. But yeah, Pentrefan is just yeah, nuts.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. And this is meant to be in the same grid and the same, alignment
Mm.
makeup, and they're in that way comparable. They're meant to, but they're not at all. So
Well, yeah, maybe it was the special one for some reason.
yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
it was like, well, we banged the other ones together quickly because we had to, but this one's got to look nice because who knows what these people thought?
Well, exactly.
God,
Just because, yeah, indeed,
they
well,
seem to be working on a science of that is completely beyond our understanding. And I don't mean that in terms of like technical ability or anything like that. You're not saying they have machines, but I mean they had some science to do with the sky, um, mathematics, astronomy, geometry,
yeah,
maybe even geology as well with the stones they picked. And if you're into earth energy stuff as well, like that, maybe there's a geological element as well. But certainly we can measure the astronomical, uh, geometric and metrological aspects of what they
yeah,
were doing.
yeah,
And bloody hell, it was complicated, and they were very good at it.
yeah.
So yeah,
Excellent, excellent. So we're in this. We've got this entire grid formation with the constellations as above, so below, with
yeah,
Nevern cross in the middle.
yeah,
It's just incredible, just
yeah.
incredible. Um, but just going back to the church quickly, I've just got some footage of
Oh,
inside the stones and stuff. So Ogham being the signifier of civilization more important than anything else.
oh yeah, that's
This is cool, this one.
yeah. Robin Heath's done something on that as well, which is very interesting. He shows the exact same metrology and like relative distances between the points on that stone and points in the landscape, including megalithic monuments.
What?
Yeah,
No way.
I'll have
That's
to find that video for you.
oh, I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah, 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 it's crazy.
Just yeah. I mean, what do these people know? We can only guess.
Mm.
Oh dear. Right. Okay. So this is the moment, I guess. The
A
the
moment of truth. So
the big
we're in the middle. We're in the middle of our astronomical cross, right? We're right in the
yeah,
center of it,
yeah,
right?
right in the center of it. Apologise for my breathing. There's the one of the steps
Oh yeah,
polished out by God knows how many thousands of feet going up here through
yeah,
it.
fantastic.
Okay, so there
Cool.
we have it in the centre of our landscape, skylined cross. We've got this cross, which is
Hmm.
the cave in which it's said that holds within it the true cross.
Hmm.
And the story is that pilgrims came here for visions of the true cross as well,
Mm.
which is another tradition adjacent to, but not disconnected from the tradition we're talking about.
So um, I need to have a dive into the history of how this went about, but I'm pretty sure that Wilson and Blackett were the people who got this registered as an ancient monument.
That's correct. Yeah,
They sort of rediscovered it in the modern age, didn't
that's
they?
right.
So that there was probably locals who were probably well aware of it.
Yeah,
I imagine. Um, Even if it maybe it had just fallen out of memory a little bit, but they sort of reintroduced it to the modern age. And it is evident, I mean, it's worn in stone that people came to visit it a lot. Am I right in saying this is a, a pilgrim's, like a known pilgrim's track as well, that it's off? Or
that's right.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So pilgrims visiting Nevern would have gone past this.
Yeah, they would
Um,
have. Yeah,
yeah. Um,
on the way to St David's.
yeah. Should we talk about the cave a bit again? I know we've gone over it a couple of times in the past, but it's always good to have a
Yeah,
look.
why
Do
not? I
do you
mean,
want to have a yeah, pause it so we can see the
um, I think that's a good enough
yeah,
shot.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So you can
So
see sort of you can see like the natural on the left and at the top.
yeah, indeed, sort of where my mouse is here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it
built,
cuts across the middle of the cross shaft, doesn't it?
indeed, yeah, and it's built up to the rest of it, and so you could,
With
in
that dry
theory,
stone walling that you pointed out earlier, that same style of dry stone walling, yeah.
exactly, yeah, which is everywhere in Nevern. If you ever visit, it's absolutely everywhere. So,
Mm.
um, which I thought was a magical touch of the whole thing. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, you couldn't you could take that apart, but you wouldn't get it back together if you wanted to in the right place.
You'd have to be. I would if someone were to do it, I'd get locals who did it as a living.
Yeah, yeah,
You'd get because there's probably still people who still do this for farmers and things like that.
yeah,
So if someone was gonna take it down and have a look inside, that's who I'd get to put it back together again. I
yeah.
wouldn't trust archaeologists with it.
No,
Not with the rebuilding, I wouldn't. No,
no, no,
certainly
no,
not. I'd get
no.
professional people who know what they're doing to do it.
Yes,
Um, but yeah, it's really cool how where they've built up the stone wall, they've completed that cross shaft. So the cross itself is actually made out of carved bedrock of
yeah.
the natural and then built up from the dry stone walling as well. Um, it's just it's a weird thing.
It is.
It's surprising that more. So, if you're not in, you have no interest in the story of Helen, no interest in the true cross of Christ. Wouldn't this a weird walled up cave with a Christian cross on it still be of like immensely interesting to you?
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of any other place where there's something like this other than crypts below churches. I can't think of any other Christian site where something has been walled up.
Mm.
And there must be. I mean, do the naysayers think there's just nothing there? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I actually don't know. I can't think of
no.
a time when I've heard any sort of other people, people talking about it in any other kind of way. But
I've heard some. I've seen some. I've heard tell that there are other walls in the area, like immediate area, that look quite similar, like cliff walls. Like there's
Yeah.
more caves that are closed up.
Right. Okay.
None with the image of the cross. Obviously, that denotes something in particular.
Yes.
But if it was a holy place, don't you think that people might want to be buried here, or so there could be, bones of important people walled up in the caves,
Yes. Yeah.
or so do you have that? Sorry, I say, do you have? Do you remember the exact wording about the was it Henry II who demanded the true cross of Christ from the Welsh princes
I think
and
that was
princes of West Wales as well, in particular, wasn't it?
it was Edward the First.
Edward the First.
He when he annexed the principality, what was the Principality of Wales,
Mm.
after assassinating Llewellyn ap Griffith in 1282, sorry. Um, he demanded the crown of Arthur,
Yes,
um,
the Iron Crown of Arthur. That's right. Yeah.
the Iron Crown of Arthur, which was smelted down and put on the bottom of his scepter,
Mm.
and also the True Cross. And they were the two relics that he wanted the most. I think he had. I mean, just to take this opportunity to say that the Normans were absolutely obsessed with the Welsh and the Welsh mythos,
Hmm.
um, and they wanted to physically own it, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
why a lot of the castles that are built upon places where they may or may not have been castles, but they were in the myth. Does that,
Mm.
like so Bendigeidfran has got a castle in the Mabinogion in Harlech,
Mm.
and and that's where Harlech Castle is now. And there's a
Yeah.
statue of Bendigeidfran there today, remembering
Hmm.
him. So just to give you an idea, the Normans are absolutely obsessed. So that's
Yeah.
why he had that huge um, bloodlust to have those relics and those
Absolutely.
things.
And I mean, you only need to look at the later Arthurian romances.
Yes, yeah,
Most of them came out of Norman France, not all, but even then, the ones that didn't, they would have been directly adjacent Norman kingdoms and were probably threatened by Normans and things like that. So the Norman culture was well in all over Europe at the time, and all of those Arthurian romances, all of the characters and all of the places can be just are lifted out of fifth, sixth, seventh century British
yeah,
history,
yeah, yeah.
including Brittany as well. And some people get confused and go, "Oh, well, this is set in France. It's not France. It's Brittany."
Brittany. Yeah, right.
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 And yeah, but all of the people, all the places, they're from Devon, Cornwall, Brittany, Wales, north of England, Scotland, even England as well.
Yeah.
London
London.
comes up a
Yeah,
lot.
indeed. Yeah, yeah,
Winchester, of course. So, but it all is all this was their their pop culture.
yes,
This is the thing that they were into more than anything else, and all of it comes from 500 years ago, about on the western fringes of Britain.
yeah.
500 years ago for them, sorry. Um,
Well, yeah, that's
which is
it.
so bizarre. Why? There's lots of ideas about the Grail story being, the Templars trying to cover the Ark and things like that. But why clothe it in
Yeah,
all the garments of fifth, sixth century Britain? Like, so it's
good
so
point.
bizarre. Unless it's
Well,
because
I
some of
don't.
that metaphysical stuff was in Wales as
Was in
well, and
Wales.
it's not
Yeah,
just about the Middle East or yeah.
yeah, quite right. Yeah, indeed, and also the Normans, the Plantagenets particularly had an interest in Trojan origins too, or
Mm, yeah.
wanting to have Trojan origins. So when Edward the First um, got Archbishop Peckham to try and wean the Welsh of their Trojan, what he called Trojan fantasies, it was
Mm.
because he wanted to bolster his own Trojan fantasies, if that makes sense. And
Yes, yes, absolutely, yeah.
so it's all to do with ownership of those narratives, which,
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, you
And
know,
and if you want to know, the links. So one of the earliest troubadours of the Arthurian romances was Chrétien de Troyes,
yeah,
and he was from Champagne region, and he was probably from the court of the daughter of Eleanor of Aquitaine, and the Eleanor of
yeah,
Aquitaine was the wife of, or one of her husbands was Henry II of England,
give me a second. Who's,
or
yeah,
Henry Duke of Normandy, Henry II of
yeah,
England.
yeah,
Um, so she would have been well exposed to bardic tradition.
yeah,
Um, she would have been well exposed to Breton tradition as well. And that's why there was a demand for it in Champagne at that time, and why Chrétien would have been interested in that sort of material. There are literally, these people are separated only by 1 or 2 degrees of separation from
yeah.
from Wales. It's and a fascination with its history and its mysteries. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and obviously you mentioned Henry the Second, first of all, and he is the one who essentially started this whole thing with Arthur being in Glastonbury as well. So
yes, yeah,
it's come back
absolutely,
round
yeah,
full circle.
yeah.
So it is all of this kind of will to dominate the old British relics by the
Mm,
by the Plantagenets. Really, it's kind of like they sort of suppressed the history and wielded it from themselves, in their own way. A bit like how the Tudors did as well, but later
absolutely.
later
I
on.
mean, it's the best way to lie is to put a bit of truth in it,
Bit
isn't
of truth
it?
in
You
it.
you you
Yeah,
take something that's already there and has something to it, and then you just make it yours. You make it how it's for your audience, and so it serves your purposes.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Indeed. Fantastic.
So we got the cross.
That was just a picture of me. You can stand up on it, and
Oh, fab, great.
you know what I mean. And
Is some of the bottom of the cross polished? Is that right as well from people touching it? Is that right? Or
I didn't see it.
all right. I think I'm just thinking of the footstep. I think I'm just thinking
Yeah,
of the because you can step up on it to reach up, can't you? That's right.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Which that is really polished out. That little thing at the bottom.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've got bit of dowsing as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So I wondered if there was a line going through the cross,
Mm-hmm.
seeing as it's related to all of these Neolithic monuments as well. And here we go.
Huh.
I don't know if that's smooth enough for you to see, Pete,
No,
but
no, no. I get. Yeah, I can
right,
get what's going on.
cool. So stuff is happening.
You're right. Yeah.
The third time, I think.
Clear results, definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, 3 times out of three, you walk past it, there's
Mm.
something pulling the dowsing rods. Like I didn't ask it to show me the cross or anything, but it's
Mm.
pointing straight to the cross as I walk past it. So this thing's probably on a ley line as well.
Yeah, yeah. I find with strong results, the rods just do personally, in my experience. I
Yeah,
don't know if this is I'm not a master dowser, so don't quote me on this. But my rods, if there's something like really strong response, they'll just cross.
yeah,
And sometimes I can ask them any question, it doesn't matter. They're crossing because they're responding to that place.
place, yeah,
And
indeed.
it's like it's almost like I can't ask them anything specific because they're just like something's here, like pay attention, something is here, like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but they,
yeah,
they can't respond because the power is so strong almost. God, what am I talking? The power is strong. I mean, but I don't know what it is, but yeah, I've got a couple of places where my dowsing rods almost, I don't want to say go haywire. They don't go haywire, but it's like you can't get anything useful about them because they are responding to something so much.
yes,
Um, yeah, it's interesting.
cool.
God, looking at that wall, I don't see how you could think of anything. think of it as anything but a walled up cave.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
Just
weird.
yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's just Nevern is just like a little village of mysteries, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's just brilliant.
Oh, including these, yeah. So how far away is this from the cave, Adam?
This is literally round the corner from the cave. So you just walk up a little few steps around the corner and you're there.
They look like they've been melted into the rock.
Yeah, that's what other people have said too.
I mean, so before we go into weird rock melting and stuff, the
Yeah,
other option is that someone cut them out at first, and then again, they have been worn by thousands of people over a long period of time,
yeah, exactly.
which you'd assume it meant that this was somehow on the pilgrim route, like one of its original courses or something went
Yeah,
this way.
yeah, yeah.
That's the only thing I could think of.
It's yeah, it's
Either
got
that or Empress Helen managed to get herself on the rock carving shamir of Solomon and carved some steps into the
yeah, yeah,
uh,
exactly. It's who can say?
sliced, like a lightsaber, just like footstep there,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
footstep there.
yeah.
Yeah, she could do that. That's amazing. That's so
Like,
cool.
when I was there, they were really mysterious. It was like, what the hell? What the hell? So
Is there anything on this? Any information on these?
nothing written up when you get there.
What?
It's kind of like there's nothing really written up about the cross, to be honest.
No, no.
Um, so it is a mystery. I've had a quick look to see if I could see anything. I couldn't. So
George, when me and you go here, we'll have a good look on the Cov line. We'll have a look at all as much official stuff as we can.
yeah,
Um, and then go in and see what we think.
yeah, indeed.
See if we can falsify anything or see if anything makes sense. Um, uh, yeah,
Cool.
cool. So
That's all, folks. I haven't got anything more. Um,
I think Nevan has quite enough.
yeah, it's a place where I'd recommend you to go if you're interested in this because
You
it's
could
just
do a whole video on any one of those elements, couldn't you?
yeah, you could.
We could. Oh, and we probably will at some point.
Yeah, we'll come back to this, I think.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I think we have to really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thanks, Adam.
Well, glad you enjoyed it. No
Thanks for
problem.
putting that together and presenting that for us.
No problem at all.
Great. We'll be hopefully back soon looking at some interesting letters found on 6th century crosses.
Going back to a
Um,
road trip.
some letters which weren't even invented until Yonglo Maganog was born, and yet somehow he managed to time travel back and
Travel.
carve them on 6th century crosses. So we'll have a look at, well, one of them in particular,
Yeah.
um, and a couple of other stones with some interesting lettering. Um, I've got a little update on the name of Glewis keeps providing more things for me, more interesting things for me, and we're going to be looking at somewhere in Cornwall where again the name of the place has kind of been separated from the myth, and I want to bring them back together again, um, and show that the local history and the local knowledge is actually attested by the place names. So we'll go into that. And what else have we got coming up, Adam?
We have got um talk on Joseph of Arimathea.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um and I am currently filming for stuff to do with Arthur, basically. So I
We're going to do
basically
King Arthur for a change.
yeah,
Um,
what you all came here for, really.
Leon, yeah.
Leon, I've been to St. Peter's Church, I've been to
Oh, right. The
Ogmore.
whole lot then.
I'm just gonna go through our tourist recs, basically. and talk about a lot of the stuff in that book, and basically just re-represent Wilson and Blackett's work, and try and do it some justice. Try
Sure.
to, their amazing work some justice on a video, just to present out there on the channel to say that we know where Arthur is. No more mysteries.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Excellent.
Hope you enjoyed that, folks. We'll catch you soon.
Cheers for watching. Take care.